just me, and no, it's not. I'm Gary to bring on. We actually have Linda and Mark Shockton joining us. Are you there?
You have to change. I think you have to change your.
Can you hear me?
You have to change your microphone.
I don't know what you're pointing at.
All right, so they're getting ready, and I will check them out. Anyway, they're joining us. Tonight is not Eagle Night. Tonight is about Florida Country Magazine. Today's the 1st. The issue has just come out. I'm going to go over here. They're having some technical difficulties at the moment, so I'll keep checking in with them. So I hope everybody's. Are you there?
We're here.
We're here.
Ah, there you are. You had some technical difficulties, huh?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to our podcast. And I think this will be great because all I've been doing is talking about the owls for the last 3 weeks. So I want to tell you that I really appreciate your story, bringing awareness to myself, because I, at one time, had used rodenticides myself with a tragic outcome. And I told the story last week about I felt bad because I told my husband we had a rat problem. So I didn't want to use, because we had little dogs, and I felt like the dogs would get into it. Well, he decided not to use it. He left it outside on a table, and a family of raccoons got into it. So that's something that I will never forget. So the whole story about the Safety Harbor owls, and I want to clear up something first. So when writers are writing articles, they contact you and you guys seem to tell the story, and he's trying to interpret your story. And in yours, I want to apologize because there was an error. And the error made it sound like just you and your wife was working on this, when actually there was a core owl team, correct?
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about Mark? Just to go
Sure.
over the whole thing, because I've been talking about it with all of our Eagle people, so I'd like to hear it from you.
Sure. We've been watching these owls. Some people have been watching these owls in Philippi Park for 7 years, or had been watching the owls for 7 years. The owls come back. They probably lived in Philippi Park, I'm sure, but they come back to what we call the owl tree to nest in late November, early December. And they raised families year after year after year. And they drew some pretty big crowds, not only from Safety Harbor, but throughout Florida. And in fact, across the country, people would come to see these owls. They were, if you will, famous.
Now, are these owls on camera like the Southwest Florida Eagles? Or no, so it's not a camera. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
So let's skip forward to the spring of 2022. The owls, and we named them. Oliver was the patriarch, the male adult. Emily was the female, and they had triplets, 3 baby owls or owlets. We called them initially Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And it turns out that Dewey was a female, so we had to change the name to Daisy. Anyway, in March of 2022, both Emily and Huey died. And they had all the general appearances of anticoagulant rodenticide secondary poisoning, meaning that they had eaten rats, which is their primary prey, their primary food source. They had eaten rats that had been poisoned with anticoagulant rodenticides. The chemicals had transferred into their tissues and liver, and after a few days, they died. We sent those owls out for necropsy to confirm that it was, in fact, anticoagulant rodenticide, and it was. So 6 of us got together, and we call these people the core owl group. And
Okay.
we decided when they died, even in fact that evening when one died, we decided we wanted to do something about it. And so almost immediately, and these are just local citizens.
So you're just average residents from around there that
Exactly. Yes,
decide to do
exactly.
something.
Right. And we started a Facebook group the next day, and we started a website, and we organized a team that would go to pest control companies and try to get them to, well, actually, I'm skipping ahead. We went to the town of Safety Harbor and told them we got an audience with the town councilman, and we got a chance to tell our story, and they were great. And within 24 hours, they lifted all the bait stations with the anticoagulant rodenticides,
Really?
and took it off all town property. So
Within
the mayor,
24 hours.
and within 24 hours.
Wow.
So the team was, the councilman and the mayor were great. But we also had to address the issue of the homeowners, the small restaurants, the small, hotels and such that were also using, or apartment complexes that were also using these poisons. And we did. Actually, we sent, the city of Safety Harbor agreed to do this. We had a pamphlet made up, and we sent them in the, was it the water bill?
The water bill.
Yeah.
They were sent in to the water bills of all the residents of Safety Harbor.
That's amazing. So the water company gets involved with you and puts these pamphlets in with their bills.
Right.
It's amazing. It's a great community effort how this is going along.
Right. So, ultimately, the other owls in the family, Oliver and Louis, died maybe a week later. And then we never knew. We tried to capture Daisy, but it was an unsuccessful capture. We knew she was living in a toxic environment, and we tried to capture her, put her into a facility that had an adult great horned owl to teach her how to hunt and teach her kind of the ropes of the wild. And but unfortunately, we could never capture her, so we don't know if she survived or not. But by the way, right now there are two great horned owls in Philippi Park, a male and a female. We think they're too young to breed this year, and they didn't. But it is possible, and a lot of people actually think that the female is our Daisy. Yeah.
Well, that would be great. I'm
That
talking
would
about
be.
I know that you followed our Eagle story here, and it's just been heartbreaking about Harriet. And I'm looking to you guys, especially. I'm really excited to have you on because you've just sparked something inside of me, and I just want to bring awareness to everyone I can about this, because I know there's people that are good-hearted like myself, but I did not understand how, setting out these pellets can affect other wildlife. For my instance, I was thinking of just my, pets. I didn't think about how it travels on to raptors and, the great horned owls and, our coyotes and raccoons and other birds of prey. And it's just so big. And the McDonald's that's right by our owl's nest, they have poison, the black traps right inside of their place, right outside.
Well, let me just say one thing in all fairness. The EPA doesn't require those bait boxes to have a label on the outside of them. So just to see a bait box doesn't necessarily mean it contains the anticoagulant rodenticides. There are other rodenticides that are not, that are definitely very, very toxic on direct exposure, but seemingly are not, don't give rise to secondary poisoning to owls, other raptors, and non-target mammals. So, I always tell people, you don't know, you should go find out. You should ask. whoever the pest control company was that put it down. You should find out what's in it. It could very well be an anticoagulant rodenticide, but it doesn't have to be.
Now,
And we
the
had-
anticoagulants, are those the only ones that pose threats to the
Yeah.
wildlife?
Well,
Okay.
secondary effects. So in other words, the raptor eats a poisoned rat with an anticoagulant rodenticide and itself dies because those residues are transferred to the raptor. Now, it doesn't seem, and I'm not going to say 100%, but there are no reported incidents of fatalities from some of the other chemicals through secondary effects. But I will say that the anticoagulants and these other, what we call safer alternatives, are highly toxic on direct exposure to small children, to pets, dogs and cats, and to anybody, a mammal, a non-target mammal, raccoon or bobcat or whatever, who would eat it directly. So
That's
these
why they get into the trap and they consume it. Because I even saw where squirrels,
right,
you
correct.
know,
And we would like people not to use chemicals. Look, there are other organizations that we link up with that are not promoting chemicals at all, any chemicals. They're just saying, look, pay attention to prevention. Pay attention to using snap traps and zap traps and A24 units that'll kill the rat humanely and quickly, but don't use chemicals that can affect species other than the rats. I don't want to say more realistic, but we're trying to get everybody involved. So we're saying, as a last resort, as a last ditch effort, you might consider using these, what we're calling safer alternatives. Not safer to people on direct exposure, not safer to pets, but safer with regard to secondary poisoning of our wildlife. That's it.
what is your favorite? What would option for other alternatives? I've read about constructing owl boxes on your property, especially ones that live in rural areas. I've read about these CO2 traps, which it just I'm not a rat fan, but I guess it's humanely it sets off the CO2 cartridge and kills the rat instantly, and then you dispose of the body. And then I read, that raptors are the answer to solving our rat problem. And so are you with the average person? Hi, Sue. Hi, Essie, everyone that's on, Patty. Are you on board with the average person like myself constructing an owl box?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We would like people to not use chemicals. I mean, I'm a chemist. I'm an environmental chemist. And I'd be the first to tell you that I don't want people to use chemicals only as a last resort. There are so many different ways. Repellents, some of the things that you mentioned. Prevention is a huge one. Well, why don't you tell them about prevention?
Yeah. I think.
Linda.
Hi. Prevention is the most important part. It's all about food. We have rats. I mean, rats have been with us since colonial times, and they are everywhere except the Arctic. And so they're not going away. They're always going to be with us. But if we don't feed them, they will go elsewhere. They did a study in the UK where they took food and then they just moved it, a little ways away, and the rats all moved. So if you have a rat problem, there's something there in your yard that they're eating. It could be trash, fruit trees, bird food. If you have outdoor pets, if you keep dog food outside or cat food outside, that's all food for rats. So that's the first step, I think, is to find out why they're around your house and see if you can do something about that. I know if you live in an apartment complex, you might not have the authority to make those changes, but I think if enough of people went to management and explain to them, or like your example of the McDonald's, what we've had really good, we have a team of dedicated people who will actually go to a McDonald's and say, tell them our story, what's going on with the owls and the anticoagulants, and say, who's your pest control company? And then we'll go to that company and explain the situation to them. And the reality is, a lot of the people, even at the pest control companies, don't really understand about the poisons that they're using.
Yes,
so I think that's the first thing.
We have a couple of our listeners, Patty. She said she started using humane traps, then releasing them in a field far away. What do you think about that? Like where you capture them and then you release them somewhere else? Now, I know there are some rules on that, aren't there, where you're supposed to just cover the holes. I've been doing a lot of reading, so correct me, Mark, where I go wrong, because I want to be educated by you for sure. So I read that you're really supposed to release them right back outside your door, but make sure how they're coming in, you close those back off, and you're not supposed to take them somewhere else, because now you're creating a problem somewhere else. So what would your advice be to Patty that is releasing them somewhere else? Is it okay to release them in another field? What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I'm going to tell you a short story.
Okay.
We lived in Connecticut, and we had flying squirrels in our attic, and they were tormenting us. So I got to have a heart trap, and we set it. And every day before I went to work, I would take the flying squirrel to a preserve about 5 miles away. This was illegal. Just exactly why you said. It's illegal. You can't do that. Anyway, the funny story was I released it. One day, I got one that had like a wart, a lesion on its face. And I looked at it, and I may have said something to Linda or not, I don't remember, but I saw it on its face. Well, it was in the trap. I took it to the preserve. I dropped it off, and I went to work. 2 weeks later, I trapped it again in our attic. I knew it, obviously, because it went back to our house, which was, I don't know, at least 5 miles away.
Yep. It liked your attic.
Yes, because the scent was that strong. So I think there's two pieces of information. One is that story. And you may think you're relocating it, but you may not be. But second of all, it is illegal to do that. And
it is.
So my recommendation is, and some people are not going to like this, but I'm going to say prevention is huge, is absolutely huge. Let the owls do it. Let the hawks do it. And for us, get your snap traps, your zap traps, and your A24 carbon dioxide
poor
traps.
Patty said, wow, guess she won't do that anymore. Now, is it illegal in all states? Is it just Florida? I don't know.
I'm going to guess it's illegal all over, but I don't know that for a fact.
Now, Melody says she has a mole problem, and she found spikes that go into the ground, and they emit a high-pitched sound that deters and chases them away. So far, that worked wonders for her. Now, is there the same thing? There is similar products for rats, correct?
Yeah, there are. I've seen a couple of videos of it, and I've seen what I saw, it didn't work. Other people might have different experiences, but there are products. There's a product called Rat-X that you can buy in the Lowe's and the Home Depot's Rat-X, RAT-X.
Okay.
That only contains cornmeal gluten and sodium chloride. And what it does is the rat eats it, and it makes them very thirsty, although there's some issue with their brain that doesn't register that they're thirsty, and they actually die from dehydration. So some people swear by it, and some people it doesn't work at all. We've never used it. We've used snap traps when we've had a rat problem, and it's been very effective as long as you keep the trap away from a dog or a cat. So I put like a little cinder block thing around it. So prevention, snap traps, deterrence. There are all kinds of methods. Owl box would be great if you can attract an owl. We have an owl box, and we haven't attracted an owl in 2 years, much to our, unhappiness. We almost got a couple of screech owls, but we didn't. They found some place they liked better. So yes, I mean I love the idea of getting an owl box, particularly a great horned owl box. They eat 12 to 1400 rodents a year. They're
I saw
very
Now,
efficient.
where could so someone was hi Kate, how are you? So let's see. We've got so many people coming in. So Essie said that she had fed a huge rat that was out front by the bird feeder in the winter. She stopped feeding the birds and they went elsewhere. She named it Ben, but she felt sorry for little fat Ben the rat. Rachel says hello to everyone. She's not only is she a pulmonary nurse, but a vet tech. She worked with the SDA, which is a rescue group and they have many rats we had to save from human abuse. They were wild rats. These people were horrible to them. Long story short, all 4 other alternatives for our wildlife. I guess it's weird how people look at different animals. To me, I don't like a rat, but I'm not in for it. The glue traps, the suffocating. I'm talking about you get other birds in there, squirrels, other things can happen with glue traps. So so you would go with your number one choice. And if we want to, what is your number one choice? The owl box?
I think the owl box could be the number one choice if you can get an owl. And if you can get a great horned owl box and you can get a great horned owl, well, then, you're golden. But I think the problem is that it's unrealistic to have, it's good for an agricultural setting, for example, to put out owl boxes in a farmer's field. That makes a lot of sense to me. But in an urban environment, I think that it only is going to apply to a few people and it's not going to solve the problem. So I love it. I love it, Rebecca. I love it. But Scarlett, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's realistic. So what I think is realistic is trying RADx, using deterrents, trying snap traps, zap traps, and A24 units. And then, if you exhaust all methods of humane, efforts, strategies, then consider some of the alternative chemicals, what we're calling, quote, safe chemicals to wildlife, which would be bromethylene and cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D3. And you can buy those at Home Depot and Lowe's.
Now, vitamin D3, what does that do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it in the concentration that it's going to be in the rat bait, it'll kill the rat. Just the same way it would be toxic to humans. We get vitamin D, but in very low quantities. So the only difference between bromethylene and vitamin D3 is compared to anticoagulant rodenticides, is that it is not known to cause secondary poisoning to owls, other raptors, and non-target mammals who eat rats that have been poisoned with it. But I don't want to say that it's safe. It is not safe. It is very toxic on direct exposure, and I would like to not see people use bromethylene and vitamin D3. I would rather see them use things that are directed towards rats and nobody else.
Okay, yes. Now, there was a question that Sue asked. Sorry, Sue, that I overlooked it. I see it now. Do you know why it's actually illegal for people to trap and then take somewhere else? Do you know why it is?
Well, I guess, just logically, it's just removing your problem and giving somebody else a problem.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know the specifics of it.
Yeah, I hate when I don't know. Can you see the chat up at the top? You can click on the chat and you can see what people are
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay, and Essie, you're probably about right. The best way, like Linda said, is pick up the food. It starts with picking up the food outside. Don't have them looking for feed. In my instance, I have horse feed out there, but now I put it all in containers, and then I had to get raccoon. I had a terrible raccoon problem, and I didn't know raccoons will literally chew through your buckets. I'm talking about if they want something bad enough, they're very smart. I would watch them on the cameras. Like one would get on top of the lid. We bought these lids that you had to spin into place, and then they had locking handles. We would watch them. One would get on top and pull around, and then one was kind of doing something else. And then slowly the raccoons would figure, oh, the handles come off. And then they would get the handles off, and they finally figured out that they also spin. Raccoons are very, very smart. So let's see, they get mice, I even saw where snakes they found rodenticide in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's from eating. They would eat the rat, and it kills snakes too. Now, these anticoagulants, can you explain how they work? I think people need to know.
Yes.
It needs a little shock and awe to get them to understand.
That's right. So they prevent clotting in anybody, in humans, in rats, in anybody. It's an anticoagulant. It stops the blood from clotting. And so you bleed to death. And so the nature of the anticoagulant rodenticide from secondary poisoning for the owl, for example, is internal bleeding. That you can see bleeding in the skin. You can see the evidence of bleeding during a necropsy, where the equivalent of a human autopsy. It's just that they bleed to death. They bleed out.
Wow. That's what I just posted. I don't know. There's 2 videos I posted. Did you see the one of Harriet that was we posted that she's sitting on the nest on the eggs, and she's falling over, and she seems like something is very abnormal with her, and they suspected that she had probably had a small trace of some type of rodenticide in her, but it was very sad to watch. She survived. It was in 2014, I believe, when that happened.
Yeah.
But she would still try to take care and turn the eggs, and she would fall right on her face and then get up. And she was surprising she didn't fall out of the nest.
But she recovered.
She did recover.
Wow.
So do you think that is possible, that could have been a small trace of this in her system?
Yeah, it's really tough. Look, 80% of raptors are going to have traces, or they're going to have detectable amounts of anticoagulant rodenticide. Very high percentage. They've done studies with red-tailed hawks where it's 87%, 90%.
Really?
The problem is, now I'm going to talk purely as a chemist.
Okay.
What's the concentration of the anticoagulant in the tissues? If the concentration is low, if the concentration is high, it's going to kill the bird. If the concentration is low, it may kill it or it may not. It just really depends on the concentration in the tissues. So in Harriet's case, it is possible that she was poisoned with eating some animal that had been poisoned or had eaten an anticoagulant rodenticide, but it was at a concentration that didn't kill her, but affected her, gave her symptoms, but didn't kill her. And by the way, I do want to mention this. There's an antidote to the anticoagulant rodenticides, which is called vitamin K, which promotes clotting.
My dog had to take.
Yes. And frankly, it's easier when it's a pet. You have a pet. The pet has eaten, a rat, okay, or any animal that's got a anticoagulant rodenticide poisoning. So the dog eats it, and then the dog shows symptoms, and you, as the pet owner, rush the dog to a vet, and the vet is skilled enough to see what the characteristics are, the symptoms of an anticoagulant rodenticide, and treats it. Additionally, they'll treat it supportively, the animal, but they'll also give it vitamin K, which is a tremendous antidote, and in many cases can reverse the effects of the anticoagulant rodenticide. But the raptor in the wild, you see it. You're seeing Harriet being sick and showing symptoms, and by the time you're seeing that, it's pretty late in the game. And by the time you can capture this bird, which is no easy feat, by the way,
Right.
and get it to a rescue organization or a vet and have them administer vitamin K, it's very often too late. Sometimes it works, but very often it's too late. Whereas in comparison or contrast to a dog or a cat, it can be much quicker and much more successful.
Right. That was after the raccoons got into the bag. The raccoons had, ripped the bag open and they carried it through the field. And there was a couple of the pellets were in the yard. So when I get out there and I realized, because I went back to my cameras, and that's how I knew the whole family of raccoons had got into this bag.
Yeah.
So when I went back out there, I couldn't, I was trying to find the bag. I couldn't find the bag. And then I see my little chihuahua sitting there chewing this green stuff. And I go, oh my gosh, she found one. So I did. I rushed her. She became ill. I rushed her immediately. And they gave her vitamin K, which she had to take. I think it was for a whole week. Or maybe it was 3 weeks. You had to keep telling, but they even tell you then that it's not 100% that your animal will survive. And then they explain to you what starts to happen. They start to bleed out on the inside. So she survived. I'm very thankful. But that was the end of that for me. I will never use anything like that ever again. So hearing your story, and I want to say something in Bill's defense, because he is a fabulous writer. And like I said, I think when everyone is talking, it is, but I understand how important it is, because it wasn't just you and your wife that took this. It was a team, and that's what it takes to bring these things out. So I'm very happy to get that out, because I think I explained to you, integrity is everything. Your integrity, my magazine's integrity, Bill's integrity. So we will go out of our way to fix anything when we do make errors. So we will fix that in our digital. We have over 90,000 subscribers on our digital. So I will make that correction. It will take me a couple of days. So I want to make sure on your end and to your team that it was an error, and we will gladly fix that for you.
Well, I wanted to say, first of all, I overreacted, and I'm sorry.
Well,
really
it's fine. I'm sorry too. I think that, when emotions get involved, and I even told Linda, after, everyone calms down, you kind of start to think logically. I was upset because I do try to work very hard with our magazine not to make mistakes, because I will tell you, when writing about generational families, the last thing you want to do is make a mistake, because it's, they have hundreds of years that their family has been here. And when I first started Florida Country Magazine, we did make a very bad mistake on a generational family. And let me tell you something. That's when I implemented that. We will share our articles with them and make sure we won't show them the layout, but we want them to read and check for fact errors. And I apologize that, at times in rushing, sometimes, Yes, we're all human. You're right, Melody. But I am the first to admit when we make mistakes, and I will definitely do everything to correct that. So, just on that note, I can't thank you two enough for just bringing this story. Linda, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'm talking about most of these people that are on our listeners right now are the eagle lovers, and they know how much I've been talking about this. And I have made it my mission. I just printed 2,000 flyers. To pass out around the Eagle Nest, the Southwest Florida Eagle Nest. And I'm not going to stop there. I'm talking about our next one. And Mark, I'm probably going to look to you because this is your background. I want to do a rodenticide article just solely on that. And I want to be very truthful. On the top of my flyers, I think shock and awe. Like, people need to understand the importance, and to do that sometimes, just like posting the video of Harriet on the top of my flyers says, "Don't be accessory to murder." I want to grab someone's attention. What makes you an accessory to murder? Well, using anticoagulants, rodenticides out there. And I don't think anybody intentionally wants to kill another living animal. I'm talking, that's no one's intention. I'm talking, unfortunately, rats are rats. It is an animal, but they bring, for my case, they urinate, they defecate, and horses feed and stuff, causes diseases that kills my horses. So they're not welcomed here. So where are you guys at now in awareness? How can you help other places like Fort Myers? Like, is Safety Harbor a small community?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we have a website, and we put together some PowerPoint presentations about everything that we've talked about: prevention, what you can do, what it means to the owls. And so, anyone can go to our website or our Facebook page.
Can you give the website and the Facebook group page to the listeners? And I'll also list it now. What's the website they go to?
We changed it. It's going to be diverted. So it's www.safetyharborowls.
Is it HARBOR?
HARBOR.
Okay.
Safetyharborowls.com. .com.
.com. Yeah.
Okay, and then your Facebook group is?
That's Safety Harbor Strong, Owls and Nature.
Owls, and it's the ampersand, right? Owls and Nature, or is it spelled out? And okay, Facebook group. Are these presentations on your website?
Yes, they are. And I have them all electronically. So you can download them from the website. But if you or anyone else, needs them, I can just email them to them.
Yes, Sue, we will post those pages on our Facebook. I'm definitely on a mission, guys. So I'm really excited because what would help me the most on spreading the word? I'm lucky that I have the forum such as the magazine, and I like to do good things. I like to give back to the community as much as I can. And I am just just absolute bird lover. It's not just eagles. I noticed when I was looking at pictures that I've taken throughout the years, I think I'm just a plain animal lover. I rescue everything. So my husband's always like, no, we can't take any more animals. So I always find another way. What would be I'm passing out flyers. I have some other raptor groups that are taking some of the flyers and they're going to post them. What's the best thing? Who do I need to reach out to make some noise in Southwest Florida?
Well, I think it's a multi-faceted faceted approach. I mean, first of all, I do want to say that you have 90,000 digital subscribers and more, I imagine, hard copy subscribers, and that's huge. To
Yes.
educate. I mean, education is so key to getting people to change. You know, we've tried. I'm going to digress a bit. We've tried to get EPA to severely restrict these chemicals or ban them, and maybe they ultimately will. And they have proposed restrictions that are more stringent than they've had before. But the ag and the pest control and the golf course industries lobbies are very strong. And it's very difficult for us to get EPA to make some significant changes. But we can act at a grassroots level to make changes, to affect change and get people not to use these products, even though you can buy them. Doesn't mean you should buy them. So I think what you're doing in your magazine, spreading the word, is so fantastic, because that's what people are going to read it. And like you said, I think right from the start, a lot of people don't even know what they're doing, what impact they're having, what consequences they're having on their life.
Exactly.
So I think to that extent, you're doing a wonderful job. Now, there are other groups. You mentioned, I think you probably are aware of Raptors Are the Solution. They're a very big group in California. They've done a lot to get California to change, to ban the second generation anticoagulants, and now one of the first generation products that is causing mange to coyotes and bobcats and causing deaths. So that's a very good group to get involved with. They have lots of educational material. And there are other groups in Connecticut that are trying to make changes. There are groups in Massachusetts. Gary Menon, for one, has got a group that is, he spells his name Nenin, Gary, who's trying to get the legislature to make legal changes to second generation anti-rodenticides, and just going around and talking to people, educating people. Many people are so ignorant of what's going on every day and how many of these raptors are being killed by anticoagulant rodenticides. It's unbelievable.
I didn't know. I'm talking honestly, I did not know. And you know, when Linda reached out to me, I started researching a little bit about it and everything, and then it led me to this page, and then I started going, oh my gosh, and then I flashed back, because I literally kept that secret for years. I just told, like my husband said, honey, you never, because when I said, I think I'm going to talk about it, because if I can help someone else, I want to tell them my truth, what happened. Like, I never in a million years would ever harm any type of animal. And to know that I when I called my mother she rescues raccoons. And when I called my mom and I told my mom what happened, and my mom said, oh honey, she said, you know, when there's that many raccoons together, those are all females. And I go, what? She says the females all go out and they hunt together, and then a raccoon stays behind another female and she takes in the real small babies, but then the other ones take the other ones to learn to hunt. I was crushed, and I thought, I just killed a whole family of raccoons. Like, I didn't, you know, so what, they got into my horse feed, you know, it wasn't the raccoons causing a severe problem, it was rats. So I didn't think about those rats don't die right away, and then they go out into the field, and then I have tons of hawks in my yard. I have great horned owl that comes around every once in a while. So mostly I have those Cooper's hawks. I have a red shoulder hawk that comes around. I never thought about that rat leaving here, and then they scoop it up and then they take it back. Sometimes they have families going on and it kills the whole family.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's just heartbreaking. That picture, Linda, that you took, I believe you took the photo of Emily nestled up to one of her babies.
Yes.
That is an amazing photo. And to know
Thanks.
that they're both not here is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, it just kills me to know that, I think it was like a week later and they were gone after that photo, right?
Yes. Huey died on Friday and Emily died on Sunday. And, we use that picture. We have a group that, as I mentioned, go to the pest control companies and ask them to stop using the anticoagulants.
I'm actually going to bring up this picture that we're talking about, because just to look at this picture and know that they're gone now, it's just heartbreaking. So I'm going to bring this picture up real quick and show everyone what we're talking about. But this is Emily. You called it mother and child,
Yes.
which really,
yes.
But this is Emily and
Huey.
Huey
was the oldest. Yeah, and it's on
this.
It's on a certificate that we give to the pesticide control companies when they agree not to use it. So we have a certificate that we present to them.
Okay. I'm trying to bring up the picture. It's like giving me, let's see if it's going to come up. Where did it go? I love how it like just goes somewhere else. Like, where are you? Okay, here it is. So I'm going to share this photo with everybody. So this is a photo that Linda took. It's called Mother and Child. And about a week later, both of them are dead from rodenticides. And this is what we're talking about, everyone. I'm talking about it's so important to look at these majestic animals, even when it comes to our eagles. I don't even care if it's a coyote or a squirrel. No wildlife needs to die a horrific death from these. So you can find their article in this issue, our June-July issue. You can see it now out on the digital. We are running a little bit late for the print copy to come in. My husband had emergency surgery, and family comes first in my eyes, because I can't take a business with me. So it's very important to me, family, period. So they are running a little bit late for the print copies to come in. They should be in here by, I would say, Monday, or maybe it'd be this Friday. But you can read their article in the digital. And like I said, it was not only Linda and Mark that put this together. It was a core OWL team that did it, of 6 individuals that, just like us, we care and we want to do something about it. So that's the most important thing, that if we can change, I don't care if it's one person that I touch. If I can make a change in one person to quit using this stuff, I feel it's a success. If I can reach more than one, it's exceptional.
Well, I was just, I want to interrupt you for just a sec. I was reading the comments, and I just wanted to address, I'm going to go over them like a bunch at once, but somebody said, what about newspapers? Somebody said about education. Somebody said about TV stations. We've done all that, and with some success, and it makes an impact. We had a very big article in the Tampa Bay Times on a Sunday. I think a lot of people read it. It was good, but we have to keep doing it, because, these things die out. People forget about it, or people are touched by it. They change their ways. They stop using these anticoagulants. But these are all good ideas, but we have to continue to do things like your magazine article, and a magazine article that I wrote, and the newspaper articles, and TV, and Bay News 9, and so forth. All these together are making a difference, but it's slow.
Oh, I will continue. I will continue. If it's daily, something pops up, I'm going to share it. But there will not be a week that goes by that I don't remind somebody of something. And I will continue this. Like, this is my mission. I find some things, like in life, I found out that magazines, I love to hear people's stories. And I've been doing in the magazine world for a long time, and then decided to go on my own, because half the time I couldn't afford half the things that were in some of these magazines, or just honestly was no interest. I would go into Tractor Supply and buy 6 different magazines just to get what I wanted in the country lifestyle. So I figured I would just do my own magazine. And with a forum like that, there's a lot of things that I just want to educate people on and bring awareness. And this, sometimes things grab me and it becomes my passion. And this happens to be something that I'm very passionate about, and I won't stop sharing this information. And it's definitely my mission. And so I have, especially you, Linda, I have you to thank for that, because you are the one that reached out to me. And I just appreciate it so much for you to share this with us and bring attention, because, you know, at first I'm thinking about the owls, and then I'm like, wait a minute. The more I did research, I'm like, all the different breeds of hawks, all the different breeds of owls, just everything out there, you know. And it's like, you know, someone looks up and it goes, oh, well, coyotes, who cares about a coyote? I'm talking about, they don't deserve to die a horrible death. I'm talking about, there's just animals that just don't deserve this. Thanks, Rachel. I really appreciate that. You know, this is sparked. We're going to do we're actually going to, on our next podcast, let the people choose the name of our department. But in that Eagle department, we're going to do rodenticides. We're going to bring awareness, just all kind of things that the community can get involved in. I want to continue working with you. Like, I don't want it to be a one-time thing. I did a story on you. If there's something I can do for your group, I'm always there. Please reach out to me. I want to help you as much. If there's something, a project team up on, I'm there. I'm talking anything that can help. And this is just not a Florida problem. This is a global problem.
It is.
Exactly.
So thanks to the Eagle has thrown us worldwide. I'm talking about literally our magazines has been shipped all over the world. So I'm going to use this opportunity and my forum to spread the word. So, however, who do you think is your biggest ally in this? Is there really anyone?
I think because we started off as a small group in a small town, I think that our biggest ally actually was the mayor and the city council, because of putting that flyer in the water bill. And, you know, Safety Harbor has a street fair. It's called Third Fridays. So we have a booth there. And we're talking to them about putting up a banner. So they've been a really, really good partner. But, you know, the individual, each person, I always say that, you know, the consumer is hugely powerful. We don't think we are, but we are just so powerful. If we decide as consumers not to buy these products, they will stop making them.
Right. You're absolutely right. I'm talking about, it's serious. Now, did you see what Patty asked Mark? It says, does anyone know what the poison corn?
I did see it, and I have no idea.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I never heard.
Let's see. Ask at Farm Store Tractor Supply, Essie said. Hi, never heard that one. And
I never.
Why do people want to why do you want to kill pigeons? Like, that's a thing, I guess, because they are a mess. Maybe that's a.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't understand.
The corn has to be coated with something.
There are. I mean, you know, I worked for the pesticide industry for 37 years.
Wow.
I can tell you that although no company that I remember made these kind of products, but there are, I think they call them avicides. There are chemicals that kill birds, small birds, and I believe they use them in very specific situations where, like in agriculture, a farmer who plants seeds or whatever, and then all the
Oh,
crows
they come and get the
will eat
crop.
all the seeds. I think there are products that will poison the birds, but I never worked for a company that had anything like that. So I don't know if I would have continued to work for a company that had
What's
that.
that
I
like?
didn't know anything about
Yeah,
it.
there's no way. Like I couldn't even. I go to a lot of like, especially like blueberry farms and so forth like that, and they're using technology, like the sound. They play loud music that has different raptors, the different bird sounds that scare off. They do different things, but the guy told me, they come in. They try to shoo him away, but he's not going to use any type of um, he's told me horror stories what some farmers do, and I won't mention, but I'm talking about they just choose to, if the birds get some of their crop, the birds get some of their crop, um, which I understand is detrimental to farmers too. I'm talking about, I support farmers 100%. So I know that we all are just trying to work around and protect, their business and supply chain for food. Patty says, she says the USA or USDA also uses it, and I'm sure they do.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but I think, other than that, because I don't want to get in troubles with farmers and everything, but I'm talking, the main thing is stay away from rodenticides. That's what we don't want them using. And I don't think farmers would be using that. Hopefully not, but I doubt it. I don't think that would be good for anything around there. But I'm going to start asking that question a little more with them and just see. I'm curious.
Well, I think you will find that the agricultural industry um, does use a lot of anticoagulant
Do
rodenticide.
they really?
Check it out. Yeah.
Hmm. Now, what's it like being on the other side? You've worked, you said, for 37 years in this industry. What's it like now seeing, um, what did you actually do in the industry?
Well, my role was as an environmental chemist and a metabolism chemist to look at the fate of companies' products in animals, in soil, in air, in water, in fish.
Oh, I didn't think
So
about that.
really, what happens to it, how it's metabolized, what it goes from pesticide to metabolite A, B, C, D. I'd identify it. So really, from 90% of what I did, in fact, maybe all of it, was kind of remote from these kinds of real life situations. Now that I know about anticoagulant rodenticides, I tell Linda all the time, maybe I should have worked for the EPA. So it's a struggle right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be hard. I'm talking about,
Yeah,
that you've been in that industry for so long and now it's really affected you, and
right.
you see the effects on wildlife now. And these are probably things that you didn't think about in the long run. And, you brought up something really important. You said, in the soil, in the air, in our water. How does that get to that point? How long does this stuff stay around once it, so is that from an animal dying and then it seeps into the soil, or it seeps into our water, or how
Well,
say that?
these second generation anticoagulants. Well, first of all, let me tell you about the first generation. These are the
Okay.
warfarin-like products that came out in the 1940s. They weren't particularly long-lived in animal tissues, and the problem was they caused resistance. So the animals, the rats, let's say, became resistant and didn't work on them anymore. So the industry came up with what they call second generation products, second generation anticoagulants. These have what we would call half lives, meaning how long it takes to remove half of it from tissue, from the liver.
Okay.
And it was maybe as many as 365 days. So the rat eats it, and they keep eating it because even though they've gotten a lethal dose, it hasn't killed them yet. It takes 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 days to kill them. So they keep eating it. They get 2x the lethal dose, 4x the lethal dose. So they're very, very toxic. So either a raptor catches them and eats them, and then the residues are transferred, or they just die in the soil, and those residues remain for very long periods of time. They're very persistent, and they leach into waterways. Now, yes, they could be diluted, and they probably are. And many people think that dilution is a solution. And in some cases, it probably is true. In some cases, it's not true. In the soil, it can leach. It can be removed eventually because microbes are going to degrade a dead rat.
Okay.
And these chemicals are going to, because they're still very potent, they have very long half-lives, they're going to leach from the rat, leach through the soil, get into shallow groundwater. And again, is it going to be a concentration that we have to worry about? Hard to tell. Maybe, maybe not.
And that gets into our well water, right?
Yes,
It could get into our well water.
Absolutely.
That's
just
scary.
like pesticides,
I've
just
never
like
thought about
fertilizers.
that.
Yeah. But the difference is they're long-lived. They're long-lived. Half-life of let's say the second generation, 150 days, 365 days. They're very long-lived, and they're not going anywhere, and they're still toxic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you two enough for coming on. And like I said, I'm glad that we got to work it out, and I'll get that change sent up. And
Great.
I look forward to working with you guys.
Well, we look forward to working with you
Yeah,
too.
I'm talking about, I think that we can come up with something. We can team up with it,
That'd be wonderful.
up together. So think of some ideas and just reach out to me, and let's make it happen.
Okay.
Great.
Scarlett,
All right.
that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And I see you. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. And I hope that you've learned something. I've learned a lot. I'm learning to, I'm going to learn a lot more. But I'm going to be around here bugging people. If I can get some flyers or something in our water bills or power bills or anything, that is what I'm after. So I'm going to see how I can try to make this happen.
Okay. And if you need help, you know where we live.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.